Awesome. Okay. Thanks, everybody. So I'm Erin Dewar. I'm the Readers and Writers Librarian for OPL, and I'm your MC and host for the evening. I'm very excited to welcome you to Omaha Public Library's virtual book bash. So before we get going, I do have a bit of housekeeping to get through with you all. So on your screen on the right side, you should see that chat box. So please use that throughout the evening. We want to hear what you're excited about, what books you're hearing that you want to talk about. Please talk with your fellow attendees. So use that throughout the evening. In there, you might also see comments from Amy Mather, who's OPL's Adult Services Manager. She's there to help manage the chat. She'll answer any questions you might have. She'll send you helpful info and links throughout the evening, so watch for her there as well. She'll also post links to our book list and to our prize survey. You will also see on the bottom of your screen an Ask a Question box. That's just if you have any random questions for us, questions for the book talkers. If you have any questions about OPL services, you can drop them there, and we will try to answer them. If not, we'll get you an answer before the end of the evening. You will also, very importantly, see in the middle of your screen something that says Enter here to win prizes. So we do a prize drawing at the end of the night. We have 10 prizes tonight. We have 4 gift cards to local bookstores. So those are to The Next Chapter, The Book Nook, The Bookworm, and Dundee Book Company. And then we were going to give away 6 book bundles, which is just a collection of 2 new or forthcoming titles with some library swag. So we're giving away 10 prizes total. We will draw those before we close out tonight. So we hope you walk away tonight with a list of books you're excited to read, and that you get to chat virtually with other attendees, and that you're excited about some of the OPL programs and services that you hear about tonight. If this is your first book bash, we like to think of this event as speed dating, but with books. So here's what that's going to look like in a virtual format. So you're going to hear from 7 OPL staff members this evening. You might hear me call these folks book talkers. Each book talker is going to spend 8 to 10 minutes telling you about a handful of books that they're really excited about. These books might be new titles or older or forthcoming, and they're going to be different genres. You'll be able to see the book covers as each person is talking. If you were able to pick up a Book Bash booklet from your branch, it looks like this. On the screen with the covers, you're going to see a little blue circle that will have the page number that book is on that they're talking about. So if you're able to get one of these, you can take little notes, write what you're excited about, fill in the stars of things that you really want to place on hold. So that is there for you. We are going to have 4 book talkers, and then we're going to have a short intermission, and then we'll close out with the final 3. And we will do our prize drawing before we close at the end of the night. We hope to be wrapped up around 8:30 this evening. So throughout those talks tonight, you're probably going to hear about a couple different OPL services and programs that we have here. The first one is the OPL Reading Challenge. This is a group of 12 challenges designed to help you broaden your reading horizons. You'll find info about those challenges on the OPL website, or you might have already picked up a booklet that looks like this at your OPL branch. We still have some that you can, so stop by your neighborhood branch and ask for one and grab them. So book talkers might mention titles that are for specific challenges, and those will be listed in here. The next thing you're going to hear about is the OPL Book Club Bag Collection. So this is a collection of titles that we've curated just for book clubs. Each book club bag has 10 to 12 copies along with a title for discussion. You can check these out from your local library, just like other items, and then use them with your own book club. We also recently brought back all of our in-person book clubs. So if you're interested in that, just check out OPL's event calendar online. And the last thing you might hear mentioned specifically is OPL's podcast, The Book Drop. So this is a regular podcast hosted by OPL staff members. Most of whom are in this group tonight. So if you're not familiar with The Book Drop, each week we talk about a new genre or topic from the book world and share our love of reading. You can find more information about the podcast on OPL's website, or just search for The Book Drop on your favorite podcast app. Okay, that is my long spiel of stuff I have to talk to you. I'm going to bring on our first book talker. So like I said, we'll do 4. We'll have a short intermission, maybe 10 minutes, and then we'll come back with the final 3. So 1 second, and we will have our first person.
Hello, everybody. My name is Melanie Fireherm Schultz. I work at the W. Dale Clark Main Library, and I'm excited to kick us off with some great reads. So let's get to it. Fans of The Guest List by Lucy Foley or Darcy Bell's A Simple Favor. If the book We Were Never Here by Andrea Bartz is not yet on your radar, it should be. This is a tale of two friends, Kristen and Emily, who take yearly adventurous trips together. This year they're backpacking in Chile, and on the last night of the trip, Emily returns to their hotel room to find Kristen with the body of the man who had been flirting with her earlier that night at the bar. Kristen said that he attacked her and it was self-defense. But the strangest thing about this thing is that this isn't the first time something like this has happened on their trips. Back home in Wisconsin, Emily is really struggling to get past that night and what they did afterward both times. Meanwhile, Kristen, who had moved to Australia, shows up at Emily's Wisconsin doorstep, acting as if everything is normal and also starting to get a little too clingy. Meanwhile, you get this menacing psychological read full of twists as Emily starts to unravel some things about Kristen's past that she had never known. But is Emily really a reliable narrator? This is a page-turning read, and I think the ending will have you convincing your friends to read it so that you have someone to discuss it with like I did. This book is available in print book, large print, ebook, e-audiobook, and technically would work for the Read a Book About the Travel Challenge, but it is definitely not the kind of trip that any of us want to take. Next up, Clark and Division by Naomi Hirahara. This is a historical mystery following Aki Ito, as she and her parents have just been released from a Japanese internment camp in California, where they had been held the last 2 years. They moved to Chicago to meet up with Aki's sister Rose, who had been released and relocated before them, only to find that she tragically died just before their arrival, and her death has been ruled a suicide. Aki, determined that Rose would not have done this, sets out to find out the true story of how she died while navigating an unfamiliar city in this slow-building, richly detailed whodunit. While this is not based on a specific real-life story, the author said she wanted to write this history of the large Japanese-American population in Chicago that even most Chicagoans don't know about. She said before World War II, there were about 300 Japanese Americans in the city, and by the 1940s, that number was up to 20,000. This book is well-researched, atmospheric, and perfect for anyone who loves Chicago or history or Chicago history. We have this book available as a print book, ebook, e-audio, and it would work for the following reading challenges: the Asian American or Pacific Islander Author Challenge, the Top Shelf Challenge, and depending on your age, the Decade Challenge. I love a good family story, and A Place for Us by Fatima Farheen Mirza is definitely that. For those who love getting lost in somewhat slower moving family dramas with parent and sibling relationships, immigrant stories, and beautiful lyrical writing, then keep listening. This story begins at the wedding of Hadiya, the oldest of 3 children, to the strict parents Layla and Rafiq, who live in a close-knit Indian Muslim community in California. Hadiya is the golden child, and this wedding is the first time that Amar, the rebellious brother, has returned from being absent from the family for 3 years. It's a multiple perspective, moving story that weaves back and forth in time, offering glimpses into different parts of this family's history, and it helps unravel the tensions and struggles that they've been through. It's a story of identity, belonging, faith, and the choices we make and how it affects our family. This book is available in print book, large print, playaway, ebook, e-audiobook, and a book club bag. It would work for the Asian American and Pacific Islander Author Reading Challenge. This next story is about a house that suddenly appears outside of a town, and it follows the lives of the magical matriarch and her gifted grandchildren. But no, I am not talking about Encanto. There are definitely similarities, making this a perfect grown-up read-alike for the movie, but this book is a story all of its incredible own. In The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina by Zoraida Cordova, Orquídea, the Montoya matriarch, has sent out wax-sealed invitations via strange-looking birds to her children and grandchildren to come back to her house for her own funeral so that they can collect their inheritance. While there, she tells them all to protect your magic, leaving them all to try to understand what exactly that means. Her descendants end up with more questions than the answers they were hoping to find. Years later, some of her grandchildren and a great-grandchild start discovering their own gifts, and family members start dying. And it seems that there is a force out there that is trying to destroy Orchidea's family tree. The grandchildren and great-grandchild set out on a trip to Orchidea's birthplace in Ecuador to begin to make sense of her secrets. This is another story with multiple perspectives and goes back and forth in time. And in this one, we get the history of the mysterious Orchidea and how she came to be this magical witchy woman that she was, and why once she got there, she never left her house in Four Rivers. Fans of Silvia Moreno Garcia, Isabel Allende, and magical realism in general will like this one as well. This is available from our library in print book, ebook, and audio on CD. The next book is Girly Drinks, A World History of Women and Alcohol by Mallory O'Meara. If you've been with us in these book bashes from the very beginning, you might remember this author's name since I talked about her book, The Lady from the Black Lagoon, back at the first ever book bash in 2020. And now O'Meara is back with this history of female brewers, distillers, bartenders, and more in this conversational book that spans from the creation of alcohol in ancient times to the present. O'Meara offers this entertaining history alongside a social critique of the treatment of women who held these roles and when exactly it was determined that drinking was a gendered act. There is so much to learn and unpack in this book. We get glimpses into Cleopatra's love of wine, the alewives or brewsters of the Middle Ages, colonial women making cider, the history of alcoholic drinks in Japan, Africa, Vietnam, the Caribbean, and so much more. Because we learn about some specific women in this book, I think that fans of collective biographies would enjoy this as well. This title is available in book, e-audiobook, and audio on CD. And I highly recommend the audiobook version as the author narrates it herself. And this would work for the Microhistory Reading Challenge. Lastly, These Precious Days by Anne Patchett. Patchett's essays in this collection are witty, engaging, and emotional. For instance, she makes an essay about getting rid of clutter and items in her house, somehow so interesting and intriguing, with an added moment of serendipity. There are essays in here on being a daughter of one father and two stepfathers, a wife, a bookstore owner, an author, a person studying and teaching literature, a person experiencing the joys of falling in love with another author's works, a person who unabashedly loves Snoopy, Charlie Brown's dog, and in the title piece, a person finding herself in a remarkable place while the world shuts down from COVID-19. The story of These Precious Days is a fascinating look at her relationship that was born over years through emails with Tom Hanks' assistant Sookie, who she had met when she interviewed the actor at an author event for his own book, Uncommon Type. What starts as this relationship with emails turns more personal as years into their correspondence, Sookie tells her she's undergoing treatment for pancreatic cancer. And in another serendipitous event, Anne's husband works at a hospital that is doing a clinical study on the exact treatment that Sookie needs. So she ends up enrolling, and Anne invites her to live with them for, just a few weeks. And then within the start of the study, first the Nashville tornadoes of 2020 occur, and then, of course, the pandemic happens. And the immunocompromised Sookie is essentially stuck there for much longer than any of them had planned. And these almost strangers begin to navigate what life looks like for them now. This is an essay that starts over and over again with a new twist or surprise around every corner. And it's just as an amazing showcase of storytelling, and it really touches on so many things about life in 2020. We have this available as a print book, large print, ebook, downloadable audiobook on CD, and a book club bag. It would work for the essays or short stories reading challenge. Thank you so much for watching.
Hi, everybody. My name's Anna Wilcoxon. I'm the Diversity and Inclusion Librarian for OPL, and I am typically at the South Omaha branch. So thank you for being here tonight. We are so excited to talk about books. So the first one I want to talk about is a book called The End of Bias, A Beginning, The Science and Practice of Overcoming Bias by Jessica Nordell. It came out in 2021. A couple years ago, we could not keep books about racial and social justice on our shelves. And if you are one of those readers, this is another one that you should pick up next. It's a highly approachable and readable book about a really important and difficult topic. I've read a lot about bias, and I'm often left feeling as though I learned more about it academically, but not really how to stop it in my own mind. So this book manages to merge that scholarly context with actionable tips that can help you retrain your own brain to fight bias. So every human being has bias. This doesn't make us inherently bad people, but what is problematic is when we refuse to acknowledge and work to remedy those biases and try to do better. So this book shares a lot of examples of the effects of bias and the work that people are doing around the world in different fields to better understand and overcome it. So this is a great book for anyone that wants to learn more, not just about bias, but also about how our mysterious minds work in general. So we have this in print and downloadable audiobook formats. My next book is called Go Home, Ricky. It's a work of fiction by Jean Kwok. It came out in 2021. And this is the first novel I've read with a wrestler for a protagonist, and I wasn't expecting to love it, but I did. So Ricky Two Hatchet is our unforgettable lead. He's kind of part buffoon, part philosopher, and he propels this humorous and touching story of identity and masculinity that is set in Omaha. So the combination of an injury and a wrestling match, followed up by an unhinged viral rant, means that Ricky is no longer able to participate in the local amateur wrestling league. And then he's dumped by his girlfriend, and then he has to move back in with his mom. So things are not going great for our friend Ricky. So he needs to figure out a new way to live, and what better time than now to set up on a journey to try to find your estranged father. So we follow Ricky as he leaves Omaha on this mission, and what results is not what you would expect. So this book is funny, charming, and it's hard to put down. We have it in print format. If you're doing the reading challenge, you could use this one for a book about sports. Wrestling is kind of in the backdrop. And so he's also a Midwestern author, so you could meet either one of those challenges. My next book is called The Secret Lives of Church Ladies by Disha Filia. This came out in 2020. And the label Secret Lives is very spot on. These are 9 stories that are really intimate, voyeuristic, and emotional. I read this book in one sitting, and I really am eagerly awaiting whatever Disha Filia comes out with next. I loved her writing. It's full of really compelling characters that are learning about themselves, their families, or their communities in one way or another. And the kind of overarching theme that brings all these stories together is just different kinds of love. It's really just a beautiful expression of love, I think. The stories are all set in the South, and they're not religious despite the title. They're more exploring the tension between what others want for you versus what you want for yourself. And this is really engaging and thought-provoking writing. We have this in print and downloadable audiobook formats. And if you're doing the reading challenge, this would be great for a collection of short stories or essays. I have another Omaha author to talk about. My Omaha Obsession by Miss Cassette came out in 2020. This is a work of nonfiction. I'll start with a little bit from her introduction to try to lure you in. Scary backless wardrobes, hand-painted in neon signs, pocket doors, imagined private ballrooms on the top floors of homes, hidden mansions, ghosts, alleys with spray paint. If that list piques your interest, then this is a book you should definitely read. Miss Cassette shares microhistories of Omaha from the perspective of buildings and the people that have been entangled with them. She's also a frequent researcher of the resources we have available at our own beloved main library. And the book that results is a mix of her really thorough and interesting research and also her own childhood anecdotes. She's from Omaha, so remembers like all of these places, some of them that she's referencing in the book. So it's just a really endearing and thorough book, and reading it helped me view Omaha with a little more mystery and intrigue. And it might help you look at the city's details a little bit differently too once reading it. So we have this in print format and also a book club bag. This would be really fun to read with friends and maybe inspire you to do your own research about a building that's caught your eye or a quirky piece of architecture around town. And if you're doing the reading challenge, like I said, she's a Midwestern author. And I think this would also qualify for microhistory. It's like you get a bunch of little microhistories about different buildings around town. So if you're stuck in that category, you could use this for that too. The last book I want to talk about is called Black Cake by Charmaine Wilkerson. It came out in 2021. I wouldn't have selected this book now because it's getting a lot of attention and it doesn't need any more, but it's blowing up. Oprah's production company bought the rights to this last year, and we'll see the story on Hulu sometime soon. This is one of those like epic lyrical family saga books. It's got elements of a murder mystery and also themes of identity and memory that are overarching throughout the whole book. So we get two estranged siblings that haven't spoken for years, and they reunite by force when their mother dies. One of her requests was that they listen to an audio recording that she's left them that contains all the secrets of her life, and as well as some mysterious directions that don't make sense to them until later on in the book. And this changes absolutely everything these siblings thought they knew about themselves, about their parents, about their whole family line. It just upends everything they thought they knew about their family. It's a globe-trotting, culture-hopping book. We go to Italy, all over the US, the Caribbean, and I really love the descriptions of place. And then don't forget, there's a murder in this book too that's kind of lurking in the background. So there's kind of an undercurrent of foreboding that pops out from time to time as the story goes on and more aspects of the crime are revealed. So we have an emotional, absorbing story that's full of twists and turns and complicated characters, and it will give you lots to think about. We have this in print and large print currently, and there's also a book club bag that will be forthcoming, I heard. And if you're doing it the reading challenge, this would work for the decade you were born. It spans from the 1960s to the present day, and also themes of water. One of the characters is an oceanographer in the book, and there are also a couple of characters that have close ties to, like, one's a distance swimmer. And then the island life that's portrayed in the Caribbean is very heavily influenced by water, of course. So it worked for that too. So those are my books, and I appreciate you guys listening to me, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your time here. Thanks.
Hi guys, my name is Rosemary, and I am a specialist at Best Johnson Elkhorn. And let's start the beginning off with Beginners, The Joy of Transformative Power of Lifelong Learning by Tom Vanderbilt. And it's an engaging journey of one man's year of learning for the sake of learning. So he learns how to play chess, sing professionally, surfing, drawing, and juggling all in this 1 year. And this takes place with some personal life stories and that are very open up to vulnerability, because as he's learning this, he's in his 40s and he's learning at these activities about the same time as his 10-year-old daughter. So it's interesting about learning how it's learning the skills that are more satisfying than the skill itself. For the challenge, I would suggest that this is a book for sports, because again, it has chess, surfing. I would consider juggling a sport. So for other challenges, we have How, which is by Yi Chun, which can qualify for short stories, and Asian American writer. And it is a collection of heart-wrenching, moving short stories following Chinese women on both sides of the globe. And all the stories revolve around the word how, which is the most common word in Chinese, yet it looks like a mother holding a child, which is one of the central themes of this short story collection. So each story gives these women a lyrical way to express their emotions on issues about migration and motherhood in their own feminine, strong voices. We have this in book form, and it just came out this year, and I love it. I recommend it to a lot of people, especially if you're just getting into short stories collection. Another Asian American writer challenge book, and also Midwest, is Craft in the Real World by Matthew Salas. And it's a new way to look at diversity with writing workshops, and how the Western story structure isn't the only way to tell a story. And as someone who has gone through writing workshops and a creative writing program, I think this is a very good book to learn about diversity and learn how there's very diverse ways of how to write. And we do have this in book form. For my next book, I have The Rose Code by Kate Quinn. We have it in ebook, audiobook, book, and book club bags. And it's a historical spy thriller about 3 women who are part of this elite code-breaking team during World War II. And each woman comes from different backgrounds and different personalities. Like Ozla is an independent posh debutante. Mab is an ambitious girl from the impoverished East End. Beth is a shy, submissive girl, but can solve a crossword puzzle in less than 8 minutes. Between the detailed code-breaking methods and historical cameos are moments when you remember that these are also young women who love boys, parties, and fashion. And it's also suspenseful in that something tears the girls apart as you're reading through, and somehow they have to come back together years later to solve an encrypted message before the royal wedding of Philip and Elizabeth. Another good book club bag. It's an old, but it's a new one. It's a new book club bag, but it is a good classic one. It's O Pioneers, and this, of course, follows into our Midwest Author Challenge by Willa Cather. And it's a historical glimpse of domestic life on Nebraska prairie. It has strong female characters, especially Alexandra Bergson, who takes over the family farm after her father dies. And it has a strong sense of place. That also gives the story a bittersweet tone, as it's not easy to be coming from. These are Swedish immigrants who come over here with pretty much no experience on how to farm, how to take care of animals, and pretty much are at the mercy of the land itself, which in a way is its own person. There's a quote I like to use. It's a story of people who do not claim a land so much as they submit to it, and in the process become greater than they were. This is available in ebook, audiobook, print, and also a book club bag. And speaking of another Midwest, it takes place in the Midwest, and it looks like it is a Western, but it's not your typical Western. This is The Loving Wrath of Eldon Quint by Chase Pultz. The characters are very gray and are flawed, and the story is surrounding two twin brothers, both trying to escape from a hidden past, bounty hunters, and then sometimes both at the same time, because that's what happens when you have a twin brother who's also a bandit. It's a very fast-paced story that tracks their journey across the plains of the Midwest, from the Dakotas to Springfield, Illinois. And it is your gritty Western with the shootouts, but and the depiction of violence and very uncouth language. But it definitely makes you feel like you're there in that time period watching these two brothers. I feel it's also a historical study of how the West was won through broken spirits of our first pioneers, who were just sent out to, be the guinea pigs to figure out what this land was and if it's worth fighting for. Those are my picks, and I hope that you guys have a great time tonight learning about more of these awesome reads. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is J-Lo. I'm a youth and family services specialist at Abraham's Branch. And baby, we gotta get this reading challenge done tonight, let me tell you. But before I start, let's get some claps in the chat for Rosemary. Thank you, thank you. So we're starting off with The Secret to Superhuman Strength by a graphic novelist, MacArthur Fellow, and famous lesbian Alison Bechdel. You might know her from Fun Home, her very famous graphic memoir, but this book is more like her second graphic memoir, Are You My Mother? It's very literary. It is talking once again about Alison Bechdel's entire life. And it is perfect for someone who reads a lot of prose, but wants to finish that graphic novel written or illustrated by a woman reading challenge pick. So this is funny. It is about sport. We're going from the 60s to now, as Alison Bechdel dives into all of these exercise fads, from karate to cycling to skiing. It's exhausting to read, but also it's a very quick read. It's an exercise for your brain. So this works great for the reading challenge for a graphic novel written and illustrated by a woman, a book about sports, or an OPL 2021 top shelf. And we have it available in physical and digital formats. My next book, you might be wondering, why does a book from 2012 have a whole list as long as this? And that's because it is book talk. We are talking book talk tonight. So if you want to read the Iliad, but interesting, you can read The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. It is written with love by former classics instructor Madeline Miller, and it's all about the relationship between Achilles and Patroclus. Obviously, we are heading into tragedy, but Miller creates this beautiful, beautiful Grecian world that we get to live in and play around in and see this beautiful queer intimacy between these two characters. It is deserving of all of the notoriety and popularity it has, and it's one of our newest book club bags. You can read it with all of your friends. Wonderful. So for reading challenges, book about water, we're dipping Achilles by his heel in that river Styx, and also it's a book about travel. We're going to Troy. I don't want to spoil the Iliad for you. You've had 3,000 years, but it's sad. It's going to get sad a little bit. It's also available as a physical book and a physical audiobook, as well as a downloadable audiobook and an ebook. For my next book, we're talking about Miriam Taves. She is a literary fiction writer from Canada who owns my whole heart. I love All My Puny Sorrows by Miriam Taves. So if you missed that one, go ahead and go back to it. Fight Night is told almost entirely from a letter from a 9-year-old to her absentee father. And while that sounds really sad, this is a very, very funny book. Swiv, who has been suspended from school and is spending her days learning from her elderly grandmother, is learning how to fight. And she's learning how to fight for her life, just like her pregnant mother has, just like her grandmother has. So we have a very experimental, very literary novel that is cataloging these different Mennonite Canadian women as they struggle through life. And the struggle is beautiful, and the struggle is also very, very funny. This fulfills your reading challenge for a book about travel. We have a very memorable plane segment if you love transit out there. This is also available as a physical book. Wonderful. I'm going to wait to see if this echo is going to go away. Ooh, I might have. Stay with. Oh, wonderful. I am muted. Hello. Well, I guess we're going to live with this echo for a second. Let's see. Is it still going? You are not alone, Mary. Sorry about it. Let's see. It might just be the room that I'm in, unfortunately. But I'm entertaining, so continue to listen to me. Well, Fight Night, we have it available as a physical book, an ebook, and a downloadable audiobook. Let's see. Okay. We're just going to keep going, folks. I'm so sorry. Thank you, Leslie. We love to see it. So, our next book is My Year Abroad by Sean Ray Lee. And it's basically the intersection between James Joyce's Ulysses and The Wolf of Wall Street. It's absurd, it's ridiculous, it's voracious, it is insatiable. So we're following 18-year-old Tiller, American Tiller, as he meets this fantastic Chinese-American businessman, Peng Lu, and embarks on this crazy adventure through Asia, selling a phony miracle cure. So Thank you so much in the chat. So yeah, we're following Tiller and Pong Lu as they go through this crazy adventure. They are getting into salacious tales that are a little bit too steamy for this here book bash. But at the same time, we are getting a coming of age story. We're getting a memoir. We're getting a crime story. We're getting a thriller. This book really has everything. I mean, it's a Pulitzer Prize finalist, so are you surprised? And, you know, I think it's a great choice for the reading challenge for reading a book by an AAPI author. It's a great choice for the book about travel. We're abroad. And it was on the OPL 2021 Top Shelf. And let me see what formats we got it in. We got it in regular print, we got it in large print, and we have it available as a downloadable audiobook as well. We're going to keep trucking along. We're going to A Little Devil in America by Hanif Abdurraqib. If you haven't read anything by Hanif Abdurraqib, I'm going to tell you right now, he is a genius. Full stop. He has the MacArthur Fellowship to prove it. The way he writes about culture, it's almost like we're walking through a city, and instead of going from point A to point B, he is walking down every single alleyway. He's stopping at every single storefront that looks interesting, and you're engaged the entire time. Hanif Abdurraqib in this book, A Little Devil in America, is talking about Black performance. He's talking about homegoing ceremonies. He's talking about dance marathons. He's talking about Soul Train. And it feels like it's not for the reader. It is for him out of the pure curiosity of it. And yet you're engaged and you're wrapped. This is a perfect book for the reading challenge for a collection of essays. It's also the perfect book for your OPL 2021 Top Shelf. We have it available as a physical book and a downloadable audio book. Read it. Learn about Black culture. Do it. It's the time. It's February. So we're heading into my last book. If you haven't heard about this book, I don't know where you've been. Blink twice in the chat if you need help. We are talking about Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zauner. You should read this book. If you want to learn about Korean culture, if you love indie pop, if you have a mom, if you don't have a mom, you should read it. It is nostalgic. It is the story of a mother and a daughter who love each other but do not always like each other. It's the story of culture and complicated relationships with identity and race and belonging. It's beautiful. Michelle Zauner really writes amazingly. It feels like you're in every single setting she describes. And it just is. It blew me away. I'm sure it's going to blow you away too. So we have that. Good luck on that whole list. It's a little long, but we have it in regular print and large print, as well as ebook and downloadable audiobook. And it fulfills your challenge for a book about travel, a book on the OPL 2021 Top Shelf, and a book written by an Asian American or Pacific Islander. Thank you for hanging on with me through the echo. I think it's beautiful. Let me give you a note. Was that fun? Okay. We're going into intermission. Give us a stretch. Go get some water, take a break, and get ready for more book talks.
Hi, everybody. Let's give it up for Jay for sticking through. It's not a book bash unless we have like a technical difficulty or a hot mic, and it was just Jay's turn, and that's okay. So like they said, we're going to take a intermission. Let's do 10 minutes. So by my clock, we'll be back at 7:50. Now's a good time to run to the restroom, get a drink, enter the prize drawing that's in the middle of your screen. I'm going to pull those winners shortly after we get back from the intermission. So we will see you back in 10 minutes. Now we're back from intermission. We have 3 more book talkers. Make sure you get that prize drawing entered. Just click that button that's in the middle of your screen, fill out that quick little survey for us, and then we will pull prizes before we close out tonight. So I'm going to pull up our next book talker. One moment.
Hello, my name is David Dick. I am a specialist. You can usually find me at the Abrahams branch, sometimes at Vinson. You can hear me every Friday on the book drop. First book I am going to talk about is Midnight Water City by Chris McKinney. It's a hard-boiled, post-apocalyptic cyberpunk noir about the grizzled detective trying to solve the murder of the beloved scientist that saved the world. Enter a gritty future, forever scarred by a near miss with an asteroid, with a flawed, brooding narrator, also forever scarred by his violent choices. A brooding detective story about regret, aging, deception, and the world leaving you behind. I think this is a great read for fans of both Philip K. Dick and Raymond Chandler alike, and we have it in OPL in print. Oh, and it's good for the Book Bash for a book by an American and Pacific Island author, a book about water, or a top shelf book. Next, I have Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This is by the author of The Martian, and it tells the tale of Ryland Grace, an amnesiac lost in space, trying desperately to remember himself, as well as his vital mission to save humanity. Ryland is a very different character from Mark Watney from The Martian, being much more of a flawed everyman, which makes him come across as more likable and human. His memory slowly returns, meaning the reader gets to know him as he gets to know himself, and it also makes the hard decisions that he has to make a lot more relatable. We have it in OPL in regular print, in large print as an ebook, and as a book club bag. I read it with my book club. I know at least 2 of them are in the chat tonight, so if you are in my book club, say hi. And it is good for the reading challenge for a book about travel. Next up, we have Dark Stars, New Tales of Darkest Horror, edited by John F.D. Taff. This book isn't out yet. It will be out on March 22nd, so I was able to get an advanced reader copy as a job perk, one of the many job perks of working here. It's a great horror collection, and it's filled with stories from some of the best writers currently working in the genre. You can find a really wide variety from like the creepy and atmospheric, more spooky ones to like the blood-drenched splatterpunk type stories. Some highlights for me were Ramsey Campbell's Demented Dreamscape, A Life in Nightmares, Stephen Graham Jones' Quarantine-inspired All the Things Called Memories, Leva Llewellyn's Ode to Self-Destruction and Volcano, and Alma Katsu's voyeuristic vampire tale, The Familiar's Assistant. I would highly recommend it for fans of horror and for people who want to, get to know what the current state of the genre is for just like a wide variety of stories, as well as anyone who might be a fan of any of the individual authors within it. We will have it in print in about a month, and you can read it for the reading challenge as a collection of short stories and as a book that we talked about on the book drop. Next up, I am going to talk about The Immortality Key, The Secret History of the Religion with No Name by Brian Maraxu. It is an investigative nonfiction book about the use of psychedelics in ancient Greek and Roman mystery religions and whether or not these practices made their way into early Christian religion. The author took a 12-year journey around the world and spoke with a lot of different scholars to try to find the answer. And, well, what conclusions did he reach? Have to read the book to find out. I would recommend it for fans of religious history, or as well as people who like books about archaeology, but also like fans of Michael Pollan's How to Change Your Mind. We have it in OPL in print, and you can read it for the reading challenge for a book about travel, a book that we talked about on the book drop, or it's also a microhistory about microdosing. Next up, I have Monsters by Barry Windsor Smith. Barry Windsor Smith is one of my all-time favorite comics writers and artists. He is known for making really highly detailed and imaginative pictures, and he's best known for some like iconic issues of Conan the Barbarian and the X-Men, and like the 70s through the 90s. And he does a really good job in this to use his art style to explore the inner turmoil of cycles of abuse. I can show you a quick page while we're here. Massive book. So we have, onomatopoeia, child walking down the stairs, all the detail, the thunder, cracking, letter, and then cut to quiet domestic scene. So really just showed off his versatility and his skill as a storyteller. And it's a very dense and character-driven body horror story, decades in the making, and we have it in OPL in print because how else could you read something like this? And you can read it for the reading challenge as a book about travel, top shelf recommendation, and it's one that I've talked about on the book drop. Next up, we have The Truth and Other Stories by Stanislaw Lim. It is by a Polish new wave science fiction master. He's best known for his really thoughtful novel Solaris, which you might have seen one of the 2 movies that was based off of it. This is a new collection that takes short stories from throughout his career, and most of them, I think all but 2, are translated into English for the first time. He's a very clever and humane writer who used science fiction to ask big philosophical questions. And highlights for me included the first story, The Hunt, which was about an android being hunted for sport, the paranoid first contact tale of Rat in the Labyrinth, and the titular story, The Truth, which was about the nature of life. I recommend it for fans of thoughtful and explorative science fiction that really asks the big human questions, like Ted Chiang and Ursula Le Guin. We have it in OPL in print. Last but not least, we have The Helm of Midnight by Mariana Lositter. This is a dark fantasy thriller with a well-realized setting and flawed, relatable characters. In a world in which inanimate objects are enchanted with spirits to boost emotions, like, for example, a lot of the guards have, bracers, which give them courage, the funeral mask of an infamous serial killer gets stolen. The novel follows 3 characters as the story unravels. Krona, the investigator tracking down the masks as the bodies start to pile up. Melanie, an aspiring healer desperate to save her sick mother, and she's also dabbling with forces beyond her control. And taking you quite a ways back, there's Louis Chabon, the killer himself during his original murder spree. It's a visceral mystery with many unfolding layers, and we have it in OPL in print. For the reading challenge, you can use it as a book about travel, and I haven't talked about it on the book drop yet, but it's coming up in an episode pretty soon. All right, thank you.
Hi, I'm Michelle Carlson, she, her, and I'm the book club librarian and a co-host of the Book Drop podcast, and I work at the W. Clark Swanson branch. I'm very excited to take you on an adventure across the globe with my book picks, which was completely unintentional, but a very happy accident for all of us. So we are going to start in South Korea with Love in the Big City by Sang-Young Park, translated by Anton Herm. This hit the shelves in South Korea in 2019 and was a bestseller, and I'm so thankful it's been translated for us English readers. As the Publisher's Weekly reviewer said, brilliant, glowing, and fun, Her's translation succeeds in bringing Park's effervescent voice to English reading audiences. So we meet our protagonist. He is an aspiring writer in his 20s and shares a name with the author. The novel starts with a very fun friendship of Young and his roommate Jae-hee. They share a passion for life and men and exchange unabashed tales of the numerous sexual conquests. But then Jae-hee settles down and gets engaged, and Young is left on his own. He transitions to oops, sorry, I lost my spot. We transition his story from that side of his life to getting the engaging and witty and insightful story of a man who's now in his 30s and caring for his highly religious and strong-willed and yet ailing mother, while he is still seeking love and romance, self-acceptance, and happiness. I fell in love with the characters due to the author's introspective and relatable writing style. At its core, it is a story of the highs and lows of love and young adulthood and the search for love. It offers honest characterizations of flawed individuals from different walks of life who are all looking to find contentment regardless of their circumstances. And that is Love in the Big City by Sang-Young Park. So now we are going to fly to Nigeria. And this is An Orchestra of Minorities by Chigozie Obioma, who is an assistant professor at UNL. So you could kind of count this for a Midwest author. So Narrated by a guardian spirit known as a chi, this is an epic novel that weaves the tale of a Nigerian poultry farmer living a simple life until he finds love. Chinozo is out for a walk and sees a woman about to jump off a bridge. He is terrified for and by her actions and throws 2 of his chickens off the bridge. The woman, Ndali, is stunned. Yet they part, and on another chance encounter, the 2 fall in love. But alas, because of the differences in their wealth and education, Ndali's family objects to their union. So Chinozo decides to risk it all for love by selling his farm, possessions, all of his animals to attend college in Cyprus. He made arrangements with a friend, paying ahead of time, and when he arrives at the university, he discovers that the friend has scammed him. This sets off a course of tragic events for Chinozo. Our author, Chigozie Obioma, this is a bit of a modern twist on Homer's The Odyssey. It's a contemporary love story, a quest for self, and a tale of forgiveness. Our author weaves a magnificently multi-layered story that is dramatic, moving, and compelling. To quote another reviewer, Obioma overwhelms readers with the visceral sense of Chinozo's humanity, his love, his rage, and his despair as he struggles between fate and self-determination. An orchestra of minorities symbolizes the sound of sorrow, a chorus of despair, and this was effectively executed in the most beautiful way throughout this huge novel. I sobbed when I finished this, partly because I actually finished a book over 460 pages, which was 18 hours of audiobook, but also because of the journey and the final destination for our protagonist. It is available in print, audiobook, and downloadable audiobook. And that was An Orchestra of Minorities by Chigozie Obioma. And now we are moving on to the next, which is The Lying Life of Adults by Elena Ferrante. So we are flying to Italy now. So Giovanna is an intellectually curious and privileged 12-year-old girl dealing with all the emotions and hormones that come with adolescence. Most of all, she's struggling with her identity. She is constantly degraded by her family, and she starts seeking affection and approval elsewhere. Beginning with visits to her Aunt Vittoria and her extended family, Giovanna ventures out of the heights of Naples and into the depths, collecting acquaintances, experiences, and backstories about her father and a disputed family heirloom. Ferrante's complex characters and strong sense of place creates a narrative that I am calling Encanto meets A Tale of Two Cities. So in the we don't talk about Vittoria kind of sense. You have the well-off, cultured family in the heights of Naples, a place of refinement. And then there's the Naples of the depths, a little trashy, a little dodgy, people not in the same social strata as Giovanna. And it's very appealing to Giovanna as she tries to discover who she is and who the adults in her life actually are. A quote from the book: "What happened, in other words, in the world of adults? In the heads of very reasonable people, in their bodies loaded with knowledge? What reduced them to the most untrustworthy animals, worse than reptiles?" This is a story loaded with themes of secrecy, class disparity, and coming-of-age themes as family secrets unravel and disrupt the harmony of Giovanna's quiet life. There's the depictions of the inequality that serve as this primary backdrop for all of this. The Lying Life of Adults is available in all our formats: print, large print, audiobook, ebook, downloadable audiobook, and most importantly, a book club kit. There are some wild things to talk about in this book. If you're sensitive to some language, this isn't the one for you. But it would be great to discuss with a group of friends or strangers. And I have to add, you must, if you can, listen to the audiobook narration because it is by Academy Award winner Marissa Tomei. And she delivers the story with so much warmth and passion. The whole story came to life. And I'll be very honest, like a couple chapters in, I was like, this person kind of sounds like Marissa Tomei. And then I was like, oh, right, it is. Okay. So anyways, so it's a little disguise. It's beautiful. That's The Lying Life of Adults by Elena Ferrante. Okay. Next, I have never read a book set in the Philippines. So Bibliolepsy by Gina Apostol was a welcome adventure. It's a book for book lovers. Filipino author Apostol gives us a feverish tale of love and longing for the written word set against the backdrop of a rebellion. So for those of you that potentially like me that are not familiar with some Philippine world history, in 1972, that was the year that Ferdinand Marcos declared martial law in the Philippines, and our main character, Primi Peregrino, was only 8 years old, and her parents mysteriously disappeared off of a ferry, and they were declared dead. So whether this was a double suicide, an accident, or something darker, their deaths leave Primi and her older sister Anna in the care of their rich and eccentric grandmother. So Primi is a reading prodigy, loves books, always has, and she likes to say that the way that she experiences books is a bibliolepsy, meaning that she has like swooning spells while she reads like really good literature, like the Brothers Karamazov or certain poems, which is really interesting and sets us on this adventure during the brutal rule of the dictator. And while the Philippine economy is like in deep recession and there's civil unrest, dear Primi is just, she's older now and has her own priorities, and that is to satiate her bibliolepsy by tracking down books and pursuing romantic connections with their authors. And it's a revolution, so it's ripe with writers and gatherings of authors for her to choose among. So again, if language or sex is not something that you want to read about, this is not going to be a book for you. And so as the Marcos dictatorship stands poised to topple, Primi remains true to her fantasy that she, quote, a vagabond from history, a runaway from time, can be saved by sex, love, and books. Really witty, some sexy in the way that it uses language, not necessarily the action of. And so it's just really kind of delightful with lots of different layers. And that was Bibliolepsy by Gina Apostol. My next one, so while we do travel in this book, it's nonfiction. So that's definitely not our focus, is our setting. So I heard leadership coach, lawyer, photographer, and activist Karen Walrond on Brene Brown's Unlocking Us podcast. Big fan. And I was immediately enticed to pick up her latest work, The Lightmaker's Manifesto, How to Work for Change Without Losing Your Joy. On the podcast, Walrond talked about the difference between joy and happiness and how you can find joy in doing work like advocacy or rebuilding after a natural disaster. Brown and Walrond are both Houston residents and were temporarily displaced by the Hurricane Harvey in 2017. To quote Walrond, how was it possible that the labor of alleviating suffering or working for justice could one find contentment or even joy? Can life changers keep facing all that is wrong with the world over and over and over again without burning out? Could advocacy fuel joy and vice versa? So to answer this very big question, Walrond interviews light makers and activist friends that felt a call to make the world a better place and talks to them about how they discovered how they go about answering that call and what it feels like for them. Many of us might have our own strong convictions and may feel that call too, but choosing where to put our energy is exhausting in of itself. So Walrond's lively conversations with activists and thought leaders such as Valerie Carr, Brene Brown, Tarana Burke, Mira Jacob, whose book Angela will talk about soon, and Zuri Adele are all full of wisdom and passion for change. This is a truly inspiring work to literally spark your joy and light your fire. The book concludes with the Lightmaker's Manifesto, an actual paragraph kind of thing, and a workbook with journal prompts and other activities to help you form your spark statement, Walrond's word kind of for your mission statement to help you fuel your joy in advocacy and activism. And her final quote that I absolutely loved was, "We can do this, my friends. There's no end to the light that we can make." And okay, on to the final one in the true sense of saving the best for last. Okay, and since we are all like best friends now, I feel comfortable sharing that I am a bit of a romance cynic. So I've been trying out some romance novels as a kind of self-prescribed immersion therapy. And oh boy, it's an adventure. And let me tell you, if I can find more like Asking for a Friend by Andy Osho, my heart might just open again. So in this multi-perspective romance novel, we meet Jemima, an author of a mildly popular mystery procedural series. And she has a complicated relationship with her ex, and she is also tasked with producing book 3 of her series. Megan is determined, strong-willed comedy agent and is working on her 5-phase plan, which does not include falling in love with her friends with benefits. Simi is an inspiring actress and the hopeless romantic of this friend group looking for love with all the wrong men. Since all 3 friends are struggling with relationships, they decide to solve their woes by playing a game of their own rules. They are going to ask people out IRL, but only for each other, hence asking for a friend. I love this theme of the story as they switch between each character, as they go on their dates and deal with the shifting of their friendships due to all their other career obstacles. It's really fun. And I am thrilled to say that we have some bad art friend vibes as Jemima is using their dating game and her friends' lives and inspiration for her latest novel. While definitely a rom-com in a book, after all, Andy Osho is a stand-up comedian. We also get a ton of heart and well-developed characters, and just as much focus on the friendship as self-acceptance, as well as the love stories. I truly did not want to leave these women at the end of this book. It was just so much fun. I wanted to be their best friend and play the game with them, which, by the way, Andy Osho shares at the end the rules of the game and asks that if you and some friends start a game on your own, to be sure to DM her on Instagram at the Andy Osho, but she's with the W at the end for that one. So, and that is Asking for a Friend by Andy Osho. And thank you, friends, for listening to my books. See you next time.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Michelle. I always just want to read all of your books. It's so amazing. So clapping for her from here too. My name is Angela Fernandez. I am the pop culture librarian for Omaha Public Library, and I am so excited to be sharing some of my favorite books with you right now. My first book is Wild Tongues Can't Be Tamed, 15 Voices from the Latinx Diaspora, edited by Sarah Cia J. Fennell, with contributions from Ingrid Rojas Contreras, Elizabeth Acevedo, and Julian Randall, among others. This title comes from a quote by Gloria Anzaldúa, and the book opens with her words as well. Write with your eyes like painters, with your ears like musicians, with your feet like dancers. You're the truth sayer with quill and torch. Write with your tongues of fire. I couldn't wait to read this beautiful book as soon as I saw it. I often find myself hungry for stories about the Latinx experience. This book really did come through. It was simultaneously difficult to put down and difficult to keep reading because I wanted to take moments to absorb the meaning of the poetry and the experiences expressed. Personally profound essays and poems about what it means to be Latinx through lenses of race, class, language, religion, and location set the reader on a difficult, heartbreaking, and empowering journey. This book is available as a physical book, and it meets the reading challenge for a collection of stories or essays. So, as Michelle said, my next book is by Mira Jacob. Has a child's innocent question about things they see in the world made you really recognize that maybe you don't understand things the way you thought you did? My next book is Good Talk, a memoir in conversations. Jacob wrote this book as her son started asking her questions on very difficult topics about politics and race in the United States and how he was seeing things reflected in the news as a biracial child. He asked questions like, how brown is too brown? Can Indians be racist? And what does real love between really different people look like? With a distinctive artistic style, this book goes to the complicated, uncomfortable places and gives them light. From the publisher, written with humor and vulnerability, this deeply relatable graphic novel is a love letter to the art of conversation and to the hope that hovers in our most difficult questions. If you enjoy books that give you the feels, this one will do it. I really actually laughed and cried when I read this book. This book is available as a physical book and as a downloadable audiobook and meets the reading challenges to read a book by an Asian American or Pacific Islander author, or to read a graphic novel written by a woman. All right. Phoebe Robinson is back with her new book, Please Don't Sit on My Bed in Your Outside Clothes. If you have read her first 2 books, Everything's Trash, but It's Okay, and You Can't Touch My Hair and Other Things I Still Have to Explain, you will know how excited I was to learn that her 3rd book was out. In this collection of essay, Robinson's returns with her boundless energetic humor, starting with the introduction of 2020 was going to be my year, LOL. From her insights on life during the quarantine, living with her boyfriend British Bake Off, to her business advice with a section on 11 things Warren Buffett should have told you, her wonderful humor and honesty is present throughout. Abby Jacobson says, this collection feels like a long-awaited weekend with an old friend. This is available as an ebook, downloadable audiobook, and as a physical book. It meets the reading challenge of reading a book by a Midwestern author and reading a collection of essays. My next book is a fascinating look into the history of psychiatry and some of the assumptions we take for granted that may not be true. The Great Pretender, The Undercover Mission That Changed Our Understanding of Madness by Susanna Cahalan is where she details a study in which students and a professor had themselves institutionalized on purpose to study mental hospitals in the way Nellie Bly had done years before. Cahalan herself dealt with a traumatic run-in with psychiatry when an autoimmune disease made her appear to have psychiatric symptoms. She describes this nightmare in her first book, Brain on Fire. The study she researches in this book created the context that is so often seen in popular culture understanding around mental institution in works like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. But not everything is as it appeared. Cahalan's excellent journalism uncovers how easy it was to change the context of mental illness while taking away so many resources that were needed for those who were suffering. This book is a great pick if you enjoyed The Woman Who Could Not Be Silenced, The Psychopath Test, or Hidden Valley Road. This book is available as an ebook, downloadable audiobook, CD audiobook, and as a physical book. It meets the Read a Microhistory Challenge and read a book about neurodiversity. Okay, so are you craving an international, multi-general novel about revolution, immigration, and the intersections of cultures in the United States? Well, I have the perfect book for you. Of Women and Salt by Gabriela Garcia is a gripping story that travels in time from the 1800s in Cuba with a lector who read stories to tobacco rollers as they worked to present day as the descendants of the family deal with newer dangers after surviving 2 revolutions, abuse, and murder. The youngest of this family of mothers and daughters is faced with a young girl who is left as her mother is detained for deportation. She has to ask herself how she will show up for another kind of immigration story. Through 3 countries, these stories are difficult, poignant, and painful. The prose is beautiful, and the connections, which are often unexpected, are difficult to stop thinking about when the book is done. This is available in ebook, physical book, audio downloadable book, audio on CD, large print, and is a book club bag. This meets the challenge to read an OPL top shelf book. And the very last book, you all. I love all of these books, but I could not wait to talk to you about this last one. Reprieve by James Hahn Matson is a complete ride of a book. It is set in Lincoln, Nebraska at a full contact haunted house. This book is horror and mystery with a bouquet of unrequited, inappropriate international love stories. The book starts with a mystery and takes you through the backstories of fascinating, multidimensional characters. As the mystery unfolds, so too do the racial undertones of the characters' interactions and the difficult and uncomfortable realities that need to be faced when people are in their darkest moments. As Kiese Lehman says about the book, Reprieve is an eventual American classic that is unrelenting in its beauty and incisive cultural critique. I'm not sure that there is a fearless American writing, but a few times in a generation, there is innovative writing that appears to confront, shred, and accept the fears of its author and its readers with wicked joy. Reprieve is that book. I am telling you, it was a ride. I couldn't put it down. I was so excited. This book is available in all of the formats, including a book club bag. It meets the challenges of a book by a Midwestern author, reading a book written by an Asian American or Pacific Islander author, and it was mentioned on the book drop. I really enjoyed talking to you about these books, and I really look forward to hearing what you think if you read them. Thank you. Have a great night.
Okay, folks, that is it. We are going to get into our prize drawing, but please put in the chat, let everybody know how great job they did. We would love to know what book you are most excited about. I like to make this a competition, and I look at the chat and see which book is mentioned the most, and it is a little contest for our book talkers. So let them know what you're really excited about. Let's see. For the person who said that we told David he couldn't throw books anymore, that is correct. I told him he could, but I'm glad that he found a way to bring the drama. So if you liked hearing from these book talkers, if you want more books from these folks, you can request a custom reading list from any librarian, but you can also request specific people. I will drop that link in the chat right now. That is another great way to get just a really long list of books that are very specifically tailored to the things that you would like. So let's get on. Yes, keep dropping those titles. I want to know what you're excited about. Let's get on to our prizes. So in that survey, you should have dropped what branch you would like to pick those up. If you're not in the Omaha area, we will find a way to get to you. I will email all of the winners probably early next week to let you know when your bundles will be, when your prizes will be ready to pick it up. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope that you guys all had a great time. You should have a list of 42 books that you're really excited about. So hopefully you are staying home with those tonight. If you missed any part of our program tonight, we've been recording so you can view it again just at the same link that you came to. It will be here for you to watch as many times as you would like. And thank you for joining us. We hope you had a great time.